Reconstruction Edition, Week 11 in the NFL. These weeks keep flying by. I feel like I do this show a lot, but this is now the 11th time. But I'll take what I can get. Thank you for joining us. I'm Josh Engleman. I am joined by the boss man himself, Alex Baker. Alex, how are you?
Doing good, man. Very exciting morning in the fantasy football world with Taysom Hill being announced as starter. And honestly, it's going to be hard to think of other players right now when, Taysom Hill is the new shiny object that we're all able to play in DFS. But we have to pick some other players too this week. So I think, this new scenario with the Saints will be a good discussion point. And then how to approach the rest of the slate, because this week we don't have a lot of the top flight offenses, right, with them being on night games. So I think this one might be a little bit more intriguing than your typical slate.
Yeah, I want to touch on Taysom Hill right out of the gate. But first, as you get in the door, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. The likes are fun. The subscription's massive for us. You guys helped us get over 40,000. We are fast on our way to 50K, which will be a really good time. I assume we'll do some sort of real fun giveaway once we get close to 50K, but we can only get there if you guys subscribe to the channel. So do that now. I have a plan for the lineups that we are going to build, but the news that has broken this morning is pretty unique. And it's even more so unique on FanDuel. So I do want to get just your first look thoughts. Taysom Hill is a tight end on FanDuel this week. He will be the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. And per Adam Schefter, Jameis Winston is not going to be involved in any packages, which is not at all what I was expecting. Can you picture a time where we've had a quarterback at a different position in fantasy? Or following that up, what are you expecting from an ownership perspective for Taysom Hill on FanDuel this week in just your normal everyday contest?
Well, I think it's going to depend on how sharp the field is. But it's hard to imagine people won't be looking for Taysom Hill this week, regardless of whether they're casual players or vets, because I'm sure all the news on ESPN, etc., is going to be talking about Taysom Hill. He's going to be the focal point of a lot of this coverage. And the fact that he's a lock button play is going to drive a lot of ownership. The only thing I think that could keep his ownership down is you have to scroll down the list pretty far to get to him. So some people just may forget that he's in the player pool when they're hand building lineups. But I think he's such a big priority this weekend. I think most casual players even will be looking for him.
I'm assuming we're on the same page here. He is at least as of right now, if you had to put your lineups in a minute, he's a cash game tight end.
Yeah, on FanDuel.
Yeah,
it's not even really a question because the quarterbacks, they are the top scoring position on half PPR, and they churn out steady points passing the ball, and Taysom Hill runs the ball too. So even if he has a bad day with touchdowns, he's still going to outperform, like Chris Herndon or something.
One final question regarding this, and I think it's an interesting one. How does this open you up to a double stack game on FanDuel, where you can then have a quarterback plus whatever, and then quarterback Taysom Hill at tight end plus whatever? Do you think that's going to be a popular construction, trying to go pretty heavy on one game with a double stack?
That's a good point. Do you want to correlate Taysom Hill with Michael Thomas? Or, the other guys aren't very exciting. I guess you couldn't really go Jared Cook because he's also tight end. So really, Emmanuel Sanders or Michael Thomas would be the options. I do kind of like the Kamara Taysom Hill pairing, because I feel like the threat that Taysom Hill will run does add, it has some synergy with Alvin Kamara's pass catching game. But the fact that he's going to run more as well may reduce targets to running back. So, honestly, I don't plan to try to stack Taysom Hill. it's just kind of irrelevant because I'm just locking at Taysom Hill, and whoever else pops in the lineup, I'm fine with.
That's fair. Well, we are going to dive into some DraftKings builds here. And for the past 2 weeks, we've done a build based on if we were entering a 3 max. I think we're going to take it a little bit of a different direction for today. Do 3 specific styles of lineups for different types of contests. So what I did was set up the idea of building a DraftKings cash lineup, a lineup that would go into a relatively small single entry contest. In this case, well, I mean, small is relative, but 14,000 entries for the $5 single entry, and then building a lineup for what would go into the milli, a spot where we probably want to be a little bit more contrarian.
I like it. Yeah, we can touch on some of the strategy differences there.
So I just transitioned to screen sharing. I have our lineup builder pulled up. You can get this at awesemo.com. If you are not a subscriber, go to awesemo.com/join if you want to sign up. We've got a promo going on. I'll tell you about that in a little bit. But first and foremost, I think it's time. Let's build a DraftKings cash lineup.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, I've got ownership pulled up, projections pulled up, your big board is pulled up. I've got everything we could possibly want to look at. Where would you like to start if you're building a cash lineup for week 11?
Well, clearly we have to start with the play of the week, PJ Walker for Carolina. He's starting for Teddy Bridgewater, and he's very cheap. So, no, I'm just joking around. But
I mean, it's not outlandish, I don't think.
No, yeah, I think he's a little bit worse than Taysom Hill, but
yeah.
I think it's tough because sometimes reports aren't true, so I don't know if we can be fully certain Taysom Hill will take every quarterback snap. But if he does, I think he's the cash game QB because he's 4,800.
I would agree with you there. Getting that sort of savings is super helpful in this spot, and I think it's helpful that we will likely see him as a red zone threat, and I think that's kind of important for him. He's not just some guy. From a DFS perspective, I think it's really interesting, especially against the Falcons, who I'm not super worried about. So Taysom Hill, DraftKings quarterback, 4,800. Come on down. As I take a look at your big board now, the number one play of the day, Dalvin Cook, but he is $9,000. Is that a problem right now? Do we slot in your number one play out of the gate, or is there a different way you want to approach the value of this slate?
Well, I think he's a guy you can feel super confident in because Minnesota runs the ball at almost the highest rate I've ever seen. More than half the time they're running the ball in neutral game scripts, and they don't even have a running quarterback. So Dalvin Cook has been getting insane volume. They're playing Dallas, who with Andy Dalton puts them in a positive game script versus them. So Dalvin Cook does stand out as exceptional play. It is cash, so I think the value is going to come in if we pick Cook, but we already got the value QB, so I'd say let's do it.
All righty. Dalvin Cook is in. I'm taking a look at your projections now just to try to find some of the higher point per dollar plays that are projected right now. Clearly, quarterback pretty heavy on the list. Just looking at other guys, if we do need some sort of salary savings, Jakeem Grant is available, Chenault, James Robinson. Anybody else that stands out to you right out of the gate, guys that you expect to be in some sort of cash build or at least pretty highly in the mix?
James Robinson is up there. He has a tough matchup versus Pittsburgh, but with Chris Thompson out, James Robinson has been getting insane usage in both the running and passing game, so the game script almost doesn't matter, but the matchup is tough. So that might come down to the other options. We got Mike Davis versus Detroit. He bombed last week. He's a little bit expensive. Or JD McKissick is kind of one of the intriguing plays at running back this week because Alex Smith has been targeting him an insane amount.
Every play, every time I was looking at the game, it was like Smith to McKissick. I was like, how many targets does he have? 600 today?
Yeah, so I think that's intriguing. Although, like, I don't know if we can count on that kind of 14 to 15 targets a game. That seems a little fluky to me. So I guess Robinson would be the safest option, in my opinion.
Okay, so that gives us Taysom Hill, Dalvin Cook, and James Robinson into our lineup so far. We still have to fill out 3 wideout spots, a tight end, and a flex, plus the defense. Defense not being all that important in this conversation, but we definitely need to get a couple wide receivers. As I filter down your projections table to the wideouts for right now, I have it sorted by value, just trying to take a look and see if anybody at the top stands out. You know, Tyler Lockett would be the guy to spend some money on, but that game already happened, so I guess we probably can't take him and his 9 catches for 60 yards or whatever it was yesterday. Enough to push me over the cash line, which is all I'm really worried about. Brandon Cooks is available. Robbie Anderson. I like the Robbie Anderson was popping up a lot in my top 5 videos, which are published, by the way. You guys can go check those out. 6K, Carolina against Detroit. Are there any wide receivers that you see immediately? Anybody that I've named, whether that's Grant or Chenault? I know we already have James Robinson.
I think Grant for cash makes sense. No, he's a guy that I didn't feel real confident going into last week because being 5'6" is a big disadvantage at wide receiver, and it's uncommon that you see guys of that height. So I'm thinking like maybe he doesn't get targeted that much, but he was out there on 78% of dropbacks. That was more than I expected, and he got targets. Let's see how many he got. He got 5 targets, not great, but pretty solid. So I think that price, I'm surprised it didn't go up based on his performance. I think that at 3,500, he's a safe bet.
Yeah, and that gives us another piece of salary savings. You know, we still have a defense to go. There aren't any real stud tight ends this week. So from a tight end salary perspective, I'm expecting that to be low. So I think we've got enough money to actually get some players with a pulse, more in the Dalvin Cook mold than the Jakeem Grant mold. So we still need a couple more wide receivers. I'm going to pitch Robbie Anderson here at 6K. I think Brandon Cooks is viable at 5,200. We already have Grant, so I don't know if Devonta Parker is all that necessary. 5,900 for Deontay Johnson against the Jags for Pittsburgh looks pretty good. Any of those names that you want to put in a cash lineup?
I think Robbie Anderson is solid. I mean, Detroit's defense is pretty weak, and the only question mark with Robbie Anderson is PJ Walker coming in, what his performance is going to look like. Other than that, well, that makes me feel a little bit less confident, but it all comes down to the alternatives, I guess. Jacoby Myers, he's been hot, but New England passes at such a low rate that I feel like Carolina is a lot safer for the volume there.
Okay.
Though with PJ Walker, that may not be quite the case. So I'll have to think about that a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Robbie Anderson at 6K though. That's a good enough price that we can get him in there.
And if we need to swap out when we finish this off, if our value ranking and contrarian rankings are a bit off, that could be the first place we look. So we still need wideout, tight end, flex, and defense. We've got about a little over 5,000 for every position. So we've got a lot of money going around. Do we want to cover tight end? Get that out of the way now.
Let's do it.
It's a tricky spot this week because who's the best tight end on the main slate?
Goddard, I guess.
Mark
Logan
Andrews?
Thomas. I guess. Oh, you mean best like overall? I don't think Mark Andrews has been doing that great this year. So I think Logan Thomas is interesting because Alex Smith passing short. has benefited McKissick so far, but Logan Thomas stands out as someone that can benefit from that. Or Goddard, where without Zach Ertz, it just bumps up his baseline a good amount. Didn't perform last week, but I do expect him to be pretty solid moving forward. So I guess maybe I'd give the edge to Logan Thomas just because he's cheaper, and that will let us be more confident in another play.
Perfect. I clicked on Logan Thomas before you started talking about Dallas Goddard, so I don't have to fix it. That went perfectly. $5,600 per position, wide receiver, flex, and defense. Do we just want to put a pin in defense and then finish this one out?
Sure.
I guess that's probably the easiest way to go about this. Defense, easiest position to fill in this regard. I don't think we're going to have to worry about it too much. Highest projected defense that you have this week. It's not close, but they are also $4,600. That would be the Pittsburgh Steelers. That seems too high as far as I'm concerned. I would look next to, I think the Vikings are your second highest projected defense, 3,300. They take on the Cowboys. We could go to Dolphins or Chargers. Chargers going to date with the Jets. They are not very good. That much I'm certain of. Any defenses that you immediately see, or are you willing to spend the $4,600 on the Steelers defense for the spot?
Well, Jake Luton has been throwing a good amount of picks, so it's not the craziest thing in the world, but not really a cash game move, I'd say. Better off just spending less and paying for the other positions. So, we got the Vikings defense, I guess, stands out because they're going up against Dalton, and man, Dallas has been miserable ever since Dak went down to injury.
Yeah.
So I feel pretty confident about that one.
I saw a quote earlier today. I assume NewsGod's the one that dropped it into chat. That just is the only way that could have happened. Dalton mentioned being on the COVID list and how COVID really wrecked him. And we've seen a lot of these guys that actually had problems with COVID didn't exactly look great coming back. So anxious to see if that's a problem for him. Makes me feel a little bit better about going to something like the Vikings defense. That gives us $13,700 to fill a wideout and a flex spot. I like it. We are in good shape here. We can largely go to whatever we want. Nice. As long as it's not Alvin Kamara at $25,000 or whatever his price is this week. Let's see.
Devontae Adams, maybe.
Yeah.
You got to feel confident about the game script going up against Indianapolis. And then, I mean, he's seen a price drop, I believe. So he's I guess he's 8,600 this week.
Yeah.
But the volume he's getting is just insane. He's been targeted on 31% of routes. So I think he could be a good salary dump.
I have no problem. It's not going to take a lot for me to have to click Devontae Adams' name to put him into this lineup. Not too much convincing. He did show up as my number one wide receiver today. I am a little nervous. I think the Colts defense is solid, but I think that kind of transcends when you're talking about a guy like Adams, who's at the upper echelon of wide receivers. 5,100 is what we have left at the flex spot. Your highest.
Yeah, no one.
Go ahead.
No one. I think this one might be a tough range to fill, so this one will be interesting.
Jacoby Myers is your highest projected player, sub or 5,100 or below, and he has that projection by like 1.5. So we're either swapping out Robbie Anderson to find some additional money, or it seems like we're leaving a lot of points on the table if we don't go to Myers.
I think the spot is fine with Myers. I just feel not very confident in this New England offense from a passing perspective, but Houston's defense is pretty weak, and the Patriots team total is 25. That's pretty good for a team that's had a lot of struggles. And then we're looking at Myers' game log here, 7, 14, and 10 targets. Hasn't been below 10 points in 4 weeks. So I wish we had a little bit more money to get to at 5,200. I saw there's McKissick.
Ooh, okay.
I feel like he's safer, but barring a couple of swaps, Myers makes sense.
Well, let me know what you think of this. I will say that if we put Jacoby Myers in, we are greater than 90% value, sub 10% contrarian ranking. So the lineup is good. Do you want to drop down from the Vikings defense to try to create an additional 100 or 200 or 300, whatever we need dollars to go to McKissick?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, defense is the easiest pivot. I think that makes a lot of sense.
You have the Browns as your 5th highest projected defense. They are 3K. That would open up an additional $300 for us.
I like that. Yeah. I mean, the Browns, they're facing Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz, he doesn't throw a ton of picks, but the Philly offense this year has been pretty pathetic. So I think that is a safe one.
You hear that, Laffy? The Philly offense is pathetic. That came from that came from your boss.
Laffy would be the first one to say that, I'm sure.
No doubt. So we actually opened up something even better than J.D. McKissick. We opened up Duke Johnson.
He's questionable this week, so given that it's Friday.
We also opened up Brandon Cooks, who is projected higher than J.D. McKissick. I don't know if that matters to you, if you would prefer McKissick because of the cash game nature of it, because he's maybe more likely to get. I don't know how I would approach that. Do you prefer having a running back in that spot from a cash game perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I guess McKissick, the way he would bomb is if Washington gets up big in this game and then they just don't throw the ball very much, not as many dropbacks. That does seem like a way that it could fail, but I like the fact that he's getting so many receptions because that's just a steady stream of points where guys like Cooks, he has more touchdown equity. That could be a bad thing in cash because most of the time he's not going to get a touchdown.
Yeah.
So I'm a little torn, but I think we'll be solid no matter how we finish this one up.
And if this were Sunday morning, it would be Duke Johnson, correct?
They're playing the Patriots. Yeah, I think that would be good because Patriots D has been pretty bad this year, and Duke Johnson's workload has been insane. So I think that's solid.
Okay, well, let's slot McKissick in there and make sure everything still looks pretty good. Value ranking greater than 90%, contrarian less than 10%. We still have $200 remaining if we really wanted to try to make another move. But I mean, I think we just built out a pretty tasty cash lineup and had a couple pivots. If one or two of these things weren't something that you would want to do, it seems pretty easy to make another swap, change out a defense, change out Logan Thomas to somebody else, change out McKissick if you want. But there are options available. Good start. I
think it's a solid one.
So we're running a little bit of a promo right now. Guys, if you want to sign up at Awesemo.com and get access to our NFL Express weekly package, you can do that. You can use the promo code Mayflower all the way up until Thanksgiving Day, and it will cost you $1. $1. You cannot beat that. That's as good as it's going to get for you. You get, and like the real big key to this, if you sign up right now, you'll get access to everything for Sunday, this main slate for Sunday. You'll get access to everything for Thursday. That's a 3-game slate. If you time this correctly on Sunday, you could also get it perfectly for next Sunday as well. Cover yourself for main slate Sunday, Thanksgiving Day, and the main slate directly after Thanksgiving. Again, this is an NFL Weekly Express package. That is the one that the code will work for. If you try to sign up and the code doesn't work, it's because you didn't pick NFL Weekly Express package, and it's $1. $1 to try out Awesemo.com. Enter that code when signing up. Come check us out. It's a hell of a deal, boss.
I know. I mean, $3.95 a week already is pretty good. $1, that's just giving it away. So make sure to check that out.
We go. So we're going to move on now to a slightly different style of build. That would be the $5 single entry contest on DraftKings that has 14,000 entries in it. So not a huge tournament, not a small tournament. This is sort of in the middle. And I think that changes the construction a little bit. Millie Maker lineup is going to be the third one. I assume, let's just put this out there to everybody in chat. I'm guessing that this single entry lineup looks a little bit more similar to a cash build than a Millie Maker build. If you're going to say the spectrum is both of those things on opposite ends, would you assume that single entry is going to be shaded a little bit closer to the cash lineup?
Well, I think I don't want to say that the approach in cash and single entry is similar, because I really feel like people maybe skew too much towards the safe plays in single entry, where maybe just making a lineup that has, you know, some of the best values of the week, but a couple of plays that might be under the radar. I'm really trying to figure out like a stack that maybe under-owned, and then maybe one flex play to make my lineup unique, where there's going to be a lot of lineups that have Taysom Hill and a QB, for example. So in the tournament, I still like him, but I don't know if my top entry would have him.
Okay. I have your top stacks tool pulled up right now, and I see the Green Bay Packers with the second highest top stack odds. Very minimal quarterback ownership. Now, I know that that's happening because Aaron Rodgers isn't exactly cheap, and Devontae Adams is very clearly not cheap. But is that the spot to go in a single entry contest where we know we're not going to get a ton of ownership from the Aaron Rodgers piece, and they are the second most likely stack to be the top stack for the week?
Yeah, I think that's very solid. It's hard to not love Green Bay. Every single week they throw the ball at a high rate with good efficiency, and the matchup versus Indianapolis, that is a little bit tougher than your average matchup, but that just means that, you know, they're gonna have to throw more. So I think I feel pretty good about the Packers stack, and then of course we got T.Y. Hilton on the other side. That makes a fantastic run back.
Shout out to friend of the program, Chris Spags' 100 yards and a touchdown pick from 2 weeks ago.
Oh, nice.
I assume we're going straight to Rodgers and Adams. This doesn't feel like a spot where you're going to tell me to double stack Allen Lazard and Valdez-Scantling or something.
Yeah, not because I don't like Lazard, but 4,600 coming off the IR, that's a little bit high. And MVS, I'm expecting his role to take a hit now that Lazard is back. So that does make Devontae Adams really stand out as the only really great option.
By the way, I forgot to say this when I was pitching the Mayflower promo. 350 people in here, only 73 likes. I would appreciate if you guys can get that number north of 100. Otherwise, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go on with my day. If we're looking at a bring back, is T.Y. Hilton your guy here, or are you looking to go and spend a couple extra $100, $300 extra, in fact, to go to someone like Michael Pittman, 4,500, with a slightly higher projection as well?
Yeah, I was joking about Hilton, but I do think he's a good play. But man, like this year has been frustrating. The only thing that makes well, I think Pittman is a great play, and T.Y. Hilton is just a good play. And what I'm looking at here is Pittman. He's been targeted, or his playing time has gone up a lot in the last 2 weeks. He's averaged 90% of snaps, whereas Hilton's went down a little bit last week to 83%. Now Hilton's gotten targeted more on his routes. So Pittman, he doesn't get targeted quite as much as you'd like, but he's just been way more efficient with the targets he's been getting. 75% catch rate compared to about 60% for Hilton. The yards per catch is about the same. So I think Pittman, not like a crazy smash play, but definitely solid.
Okay. And at 4,500, as they bring back in a relatively expensive Packers stack, that should help us out a little bit from a salary savings perspective. So
Definitely.
we've got a quarterback and 2 wide receivers filled out now. We're going to need to find at least a little value somewhere else. Are we going to be grabbing guys like Jakeem Grant out of our cash lineup? Where do you want to go for value in this single entry contest lineup?
Yeah, that's a good question. The one thing about Jakeem Grant is it seems like he might not even be very high owned this week. So I think that makes me like him a lot in both cash and tournaments. Right now in our ownership projections, which are free today, we have him around 4%. I think that's being driven a lot by the fact that a lot of people are going to be spending down at QB this week. And since we're not, our lineup's going to look a lot different. And I think Jakeem Grant makes a nice play there.
Excellent. That one feels good. Let's go ahead and get Jakeem Grant in. That's our 3rd wide receiver. I think it might be time to find a running back or two because we're certainly going to need 2 of them.
Nice.
It's probably not going to be Dalvin Cook if I had to guess, but
yeah, we don't have a lot of money here, so Dalvin Cook might be a little tough. Okay, I just saw a name flash on the screen that kind of caught my eye. It's a Jet. I'll give this warning. Michael Pirine. What I'm thinking here is the coach said he's going to be more of the featured back going forward. That was before their bye. Now it's after the bye. But I think maybe this would be a 150 max play. I'm just going to cross him off for single entry.
Save him.
But I'm intrigued.
Save him for the Millie lineup.
Yeah, there we go. I like that. Okay. The other big news this week is Swift is out or projected to be out due to concussion, questionable currently. That would make Adrian Peterson possibly intriguing play because, man, they just do not like Kerryon Johnson in Detroit.
Yeah.
Expect him to be the passing downs back. If Detroit runs away with this game and PJ Walker disappoints on the other side, you could see a renaissance game from Peterson. So I guess it's a little premature for Peterson, but maybe that even is too fancy. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, obviously our ownership on Peterson is going to change with Swift out. He's not going to be 0.8% at 4K. I don't mind it at all. I mean, it's not fun, but for 4,000 with the starting running back out, even if he is like legitimately splitting time with Kerryon Johnson. I mean, I guess if they were legitimately splitting, I would probably prefer Kerryon Johnson just because it's DraftKings. I'm okay with it.
Nice.
It's not crazy. How does the Panthers' run defense stack up against Peterson, or do we not care all that much because he's $4,000?
Their run defense has been their weak point, I would say. So that's a factor. Really, it's a spot where all of Adrian Peterson's production comes on the ground pretty much, and that creates significant touchdown equity. So there's a decent chance that he could put up 100 yards and a touchdown, I'd say. Not a like good chance, but for 4K, like this is about as good as you're going to get, barring just like a Mike Davis situation.
As I expected today, Adrian Peterson, first running back into our single entry lineup this week after Alex and I got out of our time machine to 2012. Adrian Peterson in.
Hopefully he got a little time machine here too.
You might want to go back and, well, never mind. I'm not gonna say anything. It's not the right show. So we still need 1 running back, 1 tight end, and 1 flex plus a defense. Again, this is for a 14,000 entry single entry contest. All right. So like
one comment I'll make real quick is 14,000 entries, although small in football. I mean, 14,000, that means your chances of winning with the average lineup are like 0.001 or something. So maybe 0.01. Anyway, I think you can take some long shot plays given that kind of ratio. So it depends a little on the payout structure too, but 14,000, that's a pretty average size in any other sport.
Yeah.
This is context where the Millie Maker and Mini Max have hundreds of thousands. So honestly, like maybe you just get even crazier in the Millie Maker, but you should be getting off the board a good amount in the 14,000 person tournament.
I'm taking a look at tight end right now. This is where it gets really tricky because all of the high-end tight ends aren't on this slate. Travis Kelce, not on the slate. Darren Waller, not on the slate. They play each other. The highest projected tight end that you have is $4,600 Hunter Henry. I don't think that $4,600 is a terribly problematic price tag. That is below our averages right now. We still need a defense. I'm looking at Hunter Henry against the Jets as the tight end option for right now. Do you have anybody else that you would rather put in?
He's solid. I mean, the passing volume is a big question mark given they're playing the Jets and they've been running the ball a ton. So, not my favorite play, but I know tight end is pretty weak this week, so I don't mind it.
Unless you're playing on FanDuel where you could roster quarterbacks.
Definitely.
All right. We'll get Henry in there. If we have to drop down, we can. That's a very easy pivot spot since he doesn't have much of a tie to the rest of the lineup. Running back, nice. Flex, defense, $17,800 remaining. Do we want to just finish off defense and then figure it out from there?
Yeah, I like that. So one defense we didn't really touch on that I think is intriguing is the Lions defense going up against PJ Walker. Since we have Adrian Peterson in the lineup already, we get a little bit of correlation there. So that would be a cheap defense I'm kind of thinking could be good in this lineup.
Let's do it. $2,700 for the Lions. That saves us some money. Running back plus flex, $15,100. That's more money than I was expecting to have for the final two guys that we could get to. So that makes me feel pretty good. We definitely need a running back. So if I just look at our running back projections right now, clearly Dalvin Cook is on an island. And honestly, we could pretty easily get to Dalvin Cook for $9K and still have enough left over at flex to sort of go any direction. And we could even free up additional money by just dropping down from Hunter Henry. Do you want to go to Dalvin Cook, or are we looking more at grabbing two guys in like the mid sevens and getting a little bit more balanced with it?
Yeah, the amount of guys in that price range is pretty limited. So I'm kind of going through the options. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, the timeshare, that kind of stinks. Mike Davis, we have the defense going up against them. James Conner, man, Pittsburgh has been throwing the ball a ton. So like he doesn't really look great to me. So that is kind of leading me to Dalvin Cook just because of a lack of other options I feel great about.
Dalvin
I guess
come on.
One other option we could consider is Miles Sanders. The matchup versus Cleveland is kind of tough, but yeah, I'd say that Cook is a superior play to any of our other options.
Okay. I'm on the same page with you there. Let me find the Vikings. Dalvin Cook is in. That leaves us 6,100 at the flex spot. Sorting that down. Highest projected guy, 6,100 or below, is Robbie Anderson, who we are obviously familiar with at this point.
Yeah, we have the defense going up against them. Yeah. So not something I would avoid entirely, but that is a negative. So I'd probably look to someone else.
$5,900 Deontay Johnson, Steelers against the Jags, is your second highest projected guy. And to me, that looks great because Jacksonville is not very good. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, quite good.
So I think Deontay Johnson's a solid play.
Ooh,
yeah, sorry, I was lagging a little bit. Okay, so I think Deontay Johnson's a great play. Chase Claypool, he's intriguing too. I'm not really sure how the ownership will shake out. So Claypool got 21 points last week. Deontay Johnson got 26. Claypool, his playing time was lower, but then I recall, there was some sort of play where he got banged up, and I feel like maybe that that something we should consider. I might have to go back and review that game just to understand that fully. But James Washington saw a big bump in playing time. Claypool saw his time decrease. And I kind of remember it being because of injury. I had Claypool projected a little bit higher last week, I'd say. So I lucked out that he had a big game. So I think both of those are good options.
If we put Deontay Johnson in the lineup, I can give you this information. Value ranking is still quite high. Contrarian ranking 50 to 60%. So we're north of that 100% crossover if we go to Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, what is the ownership on? Well, what does it look like with Claypool?
If I swap out Johnson for Claypool, we end up 60 to 70% contrarian ranking.
Interesting.
Everything still looks pretty good there. I mean, they're not projected by too much different, but yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think both of them are good options. I mean, really up to your personal preference in the chat. Another guy I might look at this week is Devonta Parker. I feel like he's going to be a lot lower on them both. And with no Preston Williams and Tua at quarterback, maybe he's just not going to pick up much ownership. What does that make I guess he's actually higher owned than Claypool in our ownership. So scratch that.
I mean, either way, we're coming in that 50, 60, 70% contrarian ranking, whichever wide receiver we rotate through. And that's why I think that's a good thing to point out. The difference between Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson this particular week, like you expect Deontay, based on projections, you're assuming Deontay Johnson is a more frequently higher scorer than Chase Claypool, but it's not by a lot. These are all kind of coin flippy decisions. You're hoping to get lucky and get the touchdown luck if you're picking between Claypool and Johnson. They're not dissimilar enough. So I think to me, this just comes down to personal preference. If you like Claypool, if you like Deontay Johnson, if you like Devonta Parker, you can make a case for any one of those three guys for this lineup in particular. That's where it gets really rough. And I think that's probably something people wonder a lot. How do you make that decision between the three? And I would say that I don't think that there's any special formula to figuring that one out.
Should we bring out the wheel?
We probably should bring out the wheel. I don't think it's going to change anything for us. So I'm just going to say that hypothetically, we spun the wheel and it ended on Devonta Parker because that's whose name is in there.
Nice. Yeah, I think it is easy to go back and do what ifs, but you just don't know. Like the projection of all three guys is pretty good, pretty hard to really dig down too deep. And I was thinking that because Parker had the worst game last week, maybe he'd be lower owned, but maybe that's not even the case. So I think that, it's just kind of who you like in that spot.
So I want to touch on one thing before we get off of this lineup. Willis is awesome, says this in the YouTube chat. Playing Parker and Grant doesn't seem optimal. Do you have any issue playing Parker and Grant without the quarterback in this particular lineup?
It is a negative. So yeah, I forgot that we had Grant in the lineup. So it's not necessarily horrible because with Rodgers and QB, if Grant and Parker get there, I'm sure Tua will have a good day, but we're really banking on a huge day from Rodgers with this lineup. So that does make me lean more to Deontay Johnson or Claypool, though.
Okay. I swap back to Deontay Johnson, but we're still looking like we have a pretty solid lineup.
Awesome.
We've got a show coming up immediately after this. So don't stick around on this stream in particular, but stick around on our channel. Coming up in about 15 minutes, the NFL Start Sit Show. Matt and Kyle will be going over who you should be playing in your season-long league this week. And if you're looking for free content, you're in luck. The ownership projections that Alex and I have been talking about throughout the show are free this week. You can go to awesemo.com and check out where we're projecting all of the players for the main slate for NFL Sunday to be projected from an ownership perspective. You can get that today and through Sunday. So check out what we've got. Hit that thumbs up, though, everybody. Would help us out a ton. Where are we at right now? 123 likes, 400 viewers. If we can get up over 150, I think that'd be pretty good, because we are now on to the goods. It is time to build a lineup that will win $1 million. Don't dupe it, guys. You're going to have to find a nice pivot because we're about to bring you guys the millionaire winning lineup. How many bad quarterbacks can we roster here?
We got to put Taysom Hill because he's obviously going to win the million this weekend.
I was going to go Jake Luton.
Luton, I mean, that in a milli, I'm not going to write anyone off. The one point I'd make is, okay, so the popular QBs in the cheap range are Taysom Hill and PJ Walker. So a lot of lineups are going to have similar construction to the lineups with the low salary QB. Maybe there's an advantage to spending up at QB just because the popular lineups this week are going to be spending down.
How do you feel about going to the Atlanta Falcons and Matt Ryan? You have them with the top stack odds twice as high as Matt Ryan's current ownership. It allows us to get to either Kamara or Michael Thomas on the opposite side. Clearly some pass catchers available for Atlanta. Seems to me that could be a nice stack from the Falcons' perspective that isn't getting a lot of love right now. Would that be a direction you would want to go to try and win our million?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that the Falcons pass at one of the higher rates in the league, and they got great talent on the receiving side of the ball. So Ridley being back this week is a nice boost too. So I think that I feel great about the Falcons. The only knock against them is that New Orleans defense is a tougher matchup than average, but I still think they have a lot of potential this week.
So I clicked Matt Ryan and put him in. Are you more likely to go to a more extreme game stack? Is it the sort of the opposite direction where you only want one and we're going to try to pick off individual crazy scores? Because we've got Jones, we've got Ridley. In theory, we've got Russell Gage. Hayden Hurst would certainly work at tight end. How would you want to fill out a Matt Ryan stack?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I think Ridley and Jones, we definitely want one of those two. And Ridley coming off the injury, I feel like maybe he'll be the lower owned. Now I think he had he has this foot injury, a mid-foot sprain. So I wouldn't expect that once he's back to limit him very much. So that makes me kind of lean towards Ridley, given that maybe the ownership will be low. He's cheaper, and he always seems to get more touchdowns than Julio.
Would you like Hayden Hurst as well?
I do like the fact that tight end is weak this week, so having a correlated tight end is a good option, but I do think his target share will be lower now that Ridley is back, and his price is actually kind of high on DraftKings at $4,400. So I kind of like maybe just Ridley and leaving it there, honestly.
Alrighty. Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Jared Cook, Alvin Kamara. I think all of those options are probably fine. Do you want to be bringing back something from the Saints?
Now, this one's tough because Taysom Hill is going to really drive up ownership on the Saints side. And we got to expect that they're going to throw the ball less. With Taysom Hill being a running quarterback, that's going to be a knock against all the pass catchers. So honestly, this might sound kind of contrarian, but I feel like maybe just not stacking up the Saints. If they get 20, they're projected for 28 points right now. And unless they go way above that, there's no guarantee that at their price points, any of the guys will do enough to really break the slate. So I do feel confident that the Atlanta stack without any New Orleans pieces would have a great shot. Although, usually we like the game stack.
Well, then we're wide open. The floor is yours. What do you want to do? How are we filling out the rest of this lineup to win $1 million?
Well, let's go back to Michael Pirine because this is the quintessential Millie Maker play, in my opinion, where everyone's gonna hate this guy because he's a Jets running back. They're a big underdog versus the Chargers. But the coach Adam Gase said he's going to give Pirine more touches over the last games. He was a 4th round draft pick, I believe. So I think the potential is there. The Jets offense is stronger now that they got all their wide receivers healthy. Maybe that gives them a little bit more touchdown equity. But mostly this is just like one of those crazy plays that I don't think people are going to be on. And maybe what is the ownership actually kind of high?
No, it's I mean, well, 2.4%.
Yeah,
so nothing too crazy. Yeah, I don't get the sense that he's going to be any sort of exceptional owned play this week, especially now with, like, all jokes aside, with Swift out, we're opening up some value at the bottom from the Lions side. So there's only so much that we're going to be picking through guys like Pirine.
Definitely, yeah. Matt in the chat is giving me some tough love here. He's saying one of these weeks Alex is going to hit on the Jets.
All it takes is one.
It's justified, but yeah, in the Millie Maker, I like taking shots on the guys that I like that I think other people won't. So I see the potential just given the role in the Jets. And with a low percentage play, you're banking on an outlier performance. I think the potential is there for that.
Multiple people in YouTube chat are drinking the Pirine Kool-Aid this week. I don't know what that tastes like, but I can't imagine it's good. Ugh. So he's in. He is in. And that will, open up a little bit of savings for us. Looking through your rankings now, Dalvin Cook at 1 on the big board, James Robinson 3rd. Robbie Anderson 8, Devontae Adams 9, Duke Johnson 10, Mike Davis 11. Am I naming anybody that you want to try to get into the Millie lineup now?
Well, I think Mike Davis, given his bust last week, I don't think people are going to care that he missed the second half mostly. I think he came in for a snap or two, but he missed that. I cared
last week.
What was that?
I cared last week.
Yeah.
I don't mind now.
Yeah, so I think he won't be popular because he burned everyone last week. But at the start of the season, we saw the potential that's there. But now that I'm thinking this through, actually, I don't think PJ Walker is going to target running backs as much as Bridgewater. But actually, I kind of have this idea of PJ Walker as more of a mobile quarterback, but let me just kind of look up his stats real quick because I haven't dug too deep in this.
Might have just looked fast because he was playing against other guys that aren't in the NFL.
That's true. Okay, so in college, he put up 200, 300 yards for his first 3 years. So given that they deduct points for sacks, I think that shows he does have pretty good mobility. Guys who tend to be more mobile scramble more and then check down less. So given that Mike Davis gets so many points on the check down, I think I might have to go back and update the projection there because I don't feel great about that. Otherwise, I would like him. So I'm going to update that as soon as we're off. I think we can go for just a chalk play here.
Okay.
Because we have our contrarian running back. So there's no real plays I feel great about as I'm scrolling down.
Not a fun slate.
Ahmed, that's kind of a name that I think he might be kind of popular this week.
I didn't know that was a person, so that's interesting.
He's been doing pretty good with the Dolphins, and Okay, so
am I supposed to remove Mike Davis?
Yeah.
Okay.
James Robinson, I feel like the touchdown equity is not good versus the Steelers, so that's more of a cash play than a tournament play for me, I'd say. I think maybe we just put in Dalvin Cook because I just feel like he's far and away the best play.
Yeah.
And we can mix it up at the rest of the positions.
All right. We have $23,300 remaining and 4 minutes to go before we turn this over to the NFL Start Sit Show. We need 2 wideouts, a tight end, a flex, and a defense.
So wide receiver, we didn't talk much about the Houston guys, but I think they're in a good spot this week versus New England.
Yeah.
New England's defense has been pretty inefficient, and Houston passes the ball a good amount. So I think Houston might be a low-key like Seattle situation where their defense is just so bad they gotta really try to throw for a ton of points. That's leading me to Brandon Cooks. He's 5,200 this week, so mid-range option. He's been leading the team in targets since the play calling duties shifted. Just a solid play this week.
So I put Cooks in now. Assuming we go with Deontay Johnson in our single entry lineup, do you have thoughts on going to someone like Chase Claypool in this lineup?
Yeah, I mean, I think Pittsburgh, the passing volume is great there. And Claypool, he is a guy that, man, he's been crushing this year. He's averaged like 16 fantasy points a game, and he barely played the first 3 games. So I think, or the first 2 games. So I think Claypool has got crazy upside. I like him a lot.
Tight end, flex, defense, $12,000 total. So $4K a spot.
So one guy that I'm liking this week on a tight end. This is based on Doyle being out. Doyle has practiced fully, so scratch that. I was thinking more Ali Cox, but I don't think he's going to be playable with Doyle back.
Okay.
All right. We could.
Dallas Goddard 3,800 is your highest ranked tight end that is somewhere in the area of, your highest ranked tight end that is available for us to take, or we go to Logan Thomas at 3,300.
I like Goddard then. I think he bombed last week, so people aren't going to be very enthusiastic about him. But on paper, the role in this offense where, Fulgham and Ward get targeted a good amount, but there's still enough passing volume for Goddard to be a main feature. So I think he's a good play.
$2,300 Bengals defense is your highest ranked defense on the big board. If we go to the Bengals defense, that gives us 5,900 at the flex.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Bengals going up against Alex Smith. He's not really a huge interception thrower, so I mean this is just all about the price. 2,300, that's cheap for any defense.
The highest projected guy that you have at 5,900 or below that we could actually put in this lineup is Deontay Johnson. We already have Claypool, so I don't think we're going that direction. We could go to
Kenny Gallaudet stands out as a good option coming off the injury. Carolina's defense is just average, so let's see. He had a hip injury. He hasn't even been practicing this. He didn't practice yesterday, so he might not play. Let's leave him off here.
Okay. Antonio Gibson? We already have the Cincinnati D, so that's probably not ideal.
Parker. I mean, we don't have Grant in this lineup, so that's a play that I'm kind of liking this week.
Yeah, that works because we had to change that out in the last lineup. So if we go to Parker, that's 40 to 50% contrarian ranking. Still looking good from a value perspective. Is that high enough for you from a contrarian perspective for a contest like the Millie?
I think it's a little bit lower than I would like. Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe we want to pivot off one of the chalk plays. Or
Probably Cooks would be the one we would want to get off of the most, unless we're trying to drop down from Dalvin Cook to get us somewhere else.
Yeah, this is a tough one. So maybe that is the answer, is dropping from Cook to just a different price point. Since he's the highest owned guy. And let's see.
I mean, Cook to Derrick Henry against Baltimore? No, that's not on the slate, is it? Nah,
it is. Yeah, I don't hate that in GPPs because Henry in the right game script can absolutely dominate. And the fact that it's against Baltimore, that means it's less likely to happen. But let's see what his ownership is looking like.
We're gonna have to figure 5%. This one out. We are past our time mark.
Oh shoot. Okay. Well, let's just put Cook back in and Cook's back in.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Look, I put Henry in right now. It gives us 6,900 for a flex option, which is also sort of no man's land.
Terry McLaurin, he's good.
We have the Bengals defense. Does that matter to you?
It matters more for the running backs and the wide receivers, I think.
And I think that could be kind of an interesting way to be really different in the Millie.
What we could flip the Bengals defense for Falcons, and I feel like Taysom Hill is pretty unreliable. We do have the stack, but I don't hate that.
That gets us to 80 to 90% contrarian.
Nice. And it gives us leverage over those Taysom Hill rosters, which are going to be plenty this week.
There we go. Apologies to the start sit guys that are coming up after us, but we just had to get the goods in for the Millie Maker winner this week. Thank you guys for joining us. Hit that like button before you leave. Subscribe to the channel, notification bell. Any final thoughts, Alex, before we get out of here?
I think this was great, kind of showing everyone how we evaluate players different in cash versus small field GPP and large field. And that's the kind of thinking you want to be doing. There's no one size fits all approach for every tournament. Each lineup it has to be evaluated in context and not just as how good the lineup is.
Thank you guys for joining us. Good luck this Sunday. Alex and I will be back next Friday post Thanksgiving. I hope I'm going to be able to be awake after all the turkey that I'm going to eat on Thursday and all the money I'm going to win in DFS. Enjoy your holiday, everybody. Good luck Sunday. Good luck Thursday. We'll talk to you again next Friday.